We're going to check in again now with Sophia Stamas, who is a mile from where that explosion happened.
Yep.
Sophia, what's the latest?
The latest is that search and rescue mission is urgent as ever as the hours go on and the temperatures remain low. There could be people out there stuck in the rubble who may be injured and may not be able to reach help, that may need help, and that's why that search and rescue mission is so important right now. And we have those state and federal resources going toward that. We have Fort Hood's search and rescue team. We also have Texas Task Force 1 and 2 out there looking for them. And like you said, a very slow, methodical search, and they're having to actually reinforce every structure that they go into. And that is what is taking so long, because they have to make sure that it's safe for them to go into to look for these people. And it's just a long search. Also, there's utilities personnel that is in there alongside them, making sure that it is safe for them to be there, that there are no down power lines or anything that could endanger them. So really, as we've seen all day long, it's just a full community effort. It's not one force, it's not one police force, one fire force, but it's civilians, it's everyone working together to do everything that they can to help those who need that help. Stephanie and Chris.
Now, we also heard Sophia, Sergeant Swanton tell us, you know, people do want to come and help out, but we really want to tell them not to necessarily come to the area right now. Is that correct?
That's right. It's not a safe area for people to be. We really need for the emergency personnel to be able to move around and do the things they need to do with as little interference as possible. And again, it's just not a safe zone right now. It's been declared a disaster zone, and that's exactly what it is. It's no place for anybody except the people who have to be there.
All right, Sophia Stamas, thank you for reporting for us this morning from the West Auction Barn. She's been there for hours and hours bringing us updates. You know, it's normally 78 degrees on April the 18th is where the temperature should be. And up there at the West Auction Barn, Sophia Stamas has been there since this explosion really occurred. We got her there around 10 p.m. Sophia, what's the latest? You've been working all night long. What else have you learned?
Well, we've been talking to people who live here and who have been affected by this, and definitely about the outpouring of support and rescue that people have had for one another. Jill Jenkins joins me here, and Jill, you're a nurse.
Yes.
Tell me what your experience was and what you heard when the blast went off.
It sounded almost like a bomb. It was extremely loud, and as I went a little bit closer towards the nursing home, I started seeing homes with the windows and doors blown out, people laying in the yards, injuries, and just were very significant.
And so what did you do at that time? Were you helping people?
Yes, I stopped to help people that were in the yards, and then I saw the nursing home, and it was in bad shape as the apartments were. So I just started helping. We had already nurses and firefighters, and we have a lot of medical personnel here, and everybody just jumped in and helped. So.
And how long have you lived here in West?
16 years probably.
And are there people who you know who are out there who are still unaccounted for?
Yes.
Family, or is your family okay?
Just friends, and people in the community. It's a very tight community here, and so everybody knows everybody. It's going to be very hard to recover from this.
Did you ever imagine anything like this so close to home?
Never. It looked just like 9/11, what you saw on TV. It was just, I can't describe it.
What is getting you through these hours right now?
I don't know. I guess just I haven't slept at all. I'm exhausted, and I don't think it's really set in.
And were you reunited with your family at any point?
Yeah, I had my daughter with me because we didn't know what we were going into. So when I saw the injuries, she actually started to go into shock a little bit, and I got her removed from the scene, and then we just got to stay there.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Jill. I know a lot of people lucky that you were there to help them, and a lot of people out there still unaccounted for. 3 to 5 rescuers who were battling that fire at the time of the explosion are unaccounted for. We know that 5 to 15 people are presumed dead, and that number may go up. 160 people or more injured. Just a devastating blast. Again, it was a 2.5 on the Richter scale. That was from a seismograph all the way in Amarillo.
Now, the location he's been speaking from, the West Auction Barn, really has been the media headquarters, and that's where Sophia Stamas is now. She's been there since late last night. It was warm when she got there. She's gone through rain this morning. There have been a lot of challenges for the first responders. Sophia's got a guest with her this morning. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, I'm here with Elizabeth Perea. And Elizabeth, you were in West at the time of the explosion. Tell me what happened and what you did.
I was in my room with my kids. We were watching the news. I was laying on the bed, and the house just went up. It felt from the bed lifted up, and the floor just like a wave. My kids got scared. My two oldest daughters were in the room with me, and my little girl was in the front with my mother and my stepfather. So I grabbed them and headed for the door of the room to get out to go see what's going on. And as soon as close to the door to step out into the hallway, it's an explosion. It's loud. The windows, everything just blew in. I guess I don't know if it was the impact or what. We just threw the girls on the floor, and after it stopped, we ran out to the living room and got my other daughter and my mom and my stepdad. We were looking to see what was going on. We went outside. Everybody was running everywhere. We didn't know what happened. I started seeing everybody going toward the direction of the smoke. We didn't know what it was at first. And one of the trucks that was coming from that way just said that it was the plant where the fertilization place was.
And you actually ran toward the nursing home, is that correct?
I called my dad first. My daughter was worried for her grandpa. He lives over here on the other side of town. He came and got the girls, and I told him to take them. He's a dialysis patient, so he couldn't help out. So he took the girls and made sure they were okay, and they were scared, but they were okay.
And were you helping patients there at the nursing home?
Yeah.
What kind of things were these people going through?
A lot of cuts, broken bones, elderly people, so they have other health issues, so they were making sure that they were okay. They were pulling them out of the nursing home and taking them across to the Haven outside. Just started bandaging up people. We started just a quick reaction to help. You know, everybody was just running that way to help, bandaging them up, writing their names, some of their names on their tags because they had them by priority. Just talking to them, making sure they're okay. They didn't have family around. One of the ladies older lady that I was helping, she got injured from her eyes and her face. She got thrown from her bed. She didn't know what was going on. She couldn't see nothing, so she was more scared than anything. She was cut up and just covering her up, patching her up until they were able to help her.
And I understand this was supposed to be a happy day for your family, wasn't it?
Today's my daughter's birthday, and last night we were going to make a cake and take to her friends in her school. She goes to the intermediate. She's a 4th grader. She turned 10. We don't know about her friends. Their friends that live in the apartments, the houses there. We don't know if they're okay. Some of the fathers of her friends are firefighters here in West. They're not accounted for right now. Just hard. I'm just seeing a lot of injured people. We had to get them from the nursing home and take them to the football field. We were rolling them in wheelchairs down the street, putting them in trucks. However, we could get them away from there because it was smelling real bad. The fumes from there, the gas, houses were on fire. It was just chaos, but everybody was just helping. And, I mean, that's all we can do.
Well, Elizabeth, I'm sure they were all very lucky to have you there to help them. And we thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And unfortunately, a lot of folks out there still unaccounted for, 3 to 5 firefighters who were fighting the fire at the time of the blast, unaccounted for. We do know that one firefighter / peace officer was found is in the hospital. We don't know much about his injuries or his condition. We know there are almost 200 injuries at least, and still waiting to hear more from authorities about just how big this impact was, and waiting to hear if they have found any more people alive or unfortunately dead in the rubble. And we'll be bringing you those reports as they become available. So back to you, Stephanie and Chris.
Confirm that yet, but I'm sure he'll be heading there today. Now, Sophia Stamas all morning and all night has been at the West Auction Barn. Let's throw it back up to her in northern McLennan County to find out how things are going there. Sophia, what's the latest you've learned?
As Chris and Stephanie, it's hard to believe that right now I'm standing just a mile from the blast that caused so much devastation. Crystal Ledane joins me now. Crystal, you live here in West. How long have you lived here?
I've lived here about 26 years.
And tell me where you were at the time of the blast and what your experience was.
I was at my house, which is about 15 houses south of the explosion, right down the street. You could hear the first fire trucks go by about 6:30-ish, maybe a little later. And within 5 minutes, the flame was completely out of control. At that point, I turned around and knew that I needed to get my kids to safety because our volunteer fire department was not going to be able to handle a fire of this size. At that time, when I got within arm's reach of the girls, the explosion went off. It felt like a bomb. I mean, it picked you up and threw you down on the ground. The shrubs in front of my house, it blew parallel. I have no windows. The door was blown open. At that time, I had the keys in my hand, and we got in the car and got out of there as quick as possible. The only thing I could think about was getting my kids to my mom's house, which is right outside of town. As you drove through town, everything downtown, the windows were gone, the awnings on the buildings were on the ground. Cars that were just driving through town's windows had been blown out. It was just total chaos everywhere. When I got my kids to safety, I came back to my house to try to get there to get some of our stuff. I didn't even have shoes, and we couldn't get to the house. I still have not been able to get to my house, and I'm getting reports now of people that I know that didn't make it, and families that have been completely just displaced.
And to know that your house was close enough to have the windows knocked out, but it wasn't one of the ones that was close enough to be leveled off, and to know that you could possibly be trapped in the rubble, has that crossed your mind?
It crosses my mind every time I look at my kids. Luckily, and I say this, the wind was blowing in the direction that it was for my safety. Unfortunately, the direction that the wind was blowing was in the direction of where most of the people happen to be on that side of town. The rest home, the apartment complex. If this would have happened when school was in session, where would we be now? And that's the thoughts that go through my mind. I'm thinking of friends and family and anybody that I see on a regular basis. I don't know if they're safe. You think about everybody.
And you've lived here for 26 years. Are you going to stay here in West?
I grew up here. This isn't something that's going to necessarily make me want to run for the hills. I've got friends here that have now become family after all these years. This is a very close-knit community. We're going to stick together and help each other through this crisis. West was rocked to the core. This is something that in my wildest dream I could have not even imagined. It's horrible. But yes, I will be here to help anybody that I possibly can. And this is my home. I'll rebuild and we'll go on another day.
Well, we're definitely glad that you're okay, and we thank you for sharing that. And again, some people still unaccounted for, 3 to 5 firefighters who were fighting the fire inside the plant at the time of the blast are unaccounted for. 5 to 15 people presumed dead. Now that number could grow as search and rescue continues, and 130 or more, 160 or more injured. And definitely a lot of people talking about prayers going up. In fact, I spoke with someone from a unit that is in Afghanistan today, and they said that they have a lot of their soldiers who are from here, and that they are flying a flag for those who lost their lives today. And we're expecting another press conference here, possibly at 10 a.m. Hopefully more information about just how many people are unaccounted for and how many people have lost their lives. Back to you.